The stars that once gleamed with the brilliance of human conquest now flickered in dim, uncertain patterns. Ilara Creed stood on the bridge of what remained of the Imperial flagship, her eyes scanning the vast expanse of space. The Empire had fallen, and so had the dreams of billions. Around her, the remnants of a once proud fleet drifted aimlessly, survivors scattered across the galaxy. In the distance, a dying world, humanity's cradle, burned. Earth was nothing but a charred memory now, a target of the Vari's relentless wrath. Ilara's thoughts were heavy, but her resolve was unwavering. She had been there when the first wave of Vari forces broke through the Empire's defenses like a storm, an unstoppable force that tore apart fleets, colonies, and the very fabric of human civilization. Her home, once a beacon of hope, was reduced to ash. And yet, she was still here, alive, though surrounded by ghosts. "Captain, the survivors from Sector 9 have sent a distress signal," reported Lieutenant Kale, his voice grave but steady. Kale had been with her since the beginning, a trusted officer who had seen his family lost in the war, his home destroyed. His anger was a palpable thing, but it fueled their shared desire for retribution. "It's a small convoy, civilian ships trying to escape a Vari blockade." Ilara's gaze shifted to the holographic map. The Vari's stranglehold on the galaxy was tightening. The message was a cry for help, a desperate plea from those who had nowhere else to turn. There were no allies left, no reinforcements on the way. Humanity had been cast aside as a footnote in a galaxy that no longer cared. "Prepare the crew," Ilara commanded, her voice firm. "We'll intercept them." Her mind raced as she set the course. The Vari were relentless, and a civilian convoy was no match for their might. But if there was even a chance to save them, to keep the flame of humanity alive, she would take it. They had no fleet, no warships left. All they had was the old warship they'd found, hidden in the debris of the ancient empire, its systems half-functional, its weapons outdated. But it was enough. As the crew rushed to their stations, Ilara stared out into the void, lost in the sea of stars. She could almost hear the whispers of humanity's past, those who had dared to push the boundaries of the universe, those who had once stood at the pinnacle of power and greatness. The empire of humankind had stretched across the stars, but now it was all but gone. "Captain," Kale spoke again, his voice tinged with concern. "The Vari's lead fleet is advancing. They're heading toward the convoy." Ilara didn't flinch. She had known this was coming. The Vari were not a race to give mercy. To them, humanity was nothing more than a blip, an insignificant species to be wiped out for the sake of their empire's superiority. They would not stop until every last human had been erased from the galaxy. But Ilara would not let that happen, not while she still drew breath. "We intercept now," Ilara ordered, her voice cold and unwavering. "Engage all systems. If we're going to die, we do it on our terms." As the ship powered up, the crew moved with the precision of soldiers who knew they were fighting for their very existence. Ilara's heart pounded, but she kept her face calm, her eyes sharp. This was the moment of truth. The battle for humanity's survival would begin here. No longer a forgotten relic of the past, humanity's fight for its future would start with her, and she would not go down without a fight. The moment the warship's engines roared to life, a sense of urgency swept through the crew. The dilapidated vessel, once a testament to humanity's might, now hummed with the struggle to reconnect the ancient systems, each patchwork fix a reminder of their desperation. Ilara stood at the command center, her fingers gripping the armrests of the captain's chair, her gaze locked on the viewports as the stars outside seemed to shift with their course. They were going to intercept the convoy, but the Vari fleet was closing in fast. "All hands to battle stations," Ilara's voice rang out, cutting through the tense silence of the bridge. Lieutenant Kale moved swiftly to his post beside her. "Captain, we have a visual on the convoy. They're being chased down by 2 Vari warships. Their shields are already weakening, and their speed isn't enough to outrun them." Ilara's pulse quickened, They had no chance of engaging the Vari fleet head-on with their limited resources, but she had one advantage: human ingenuity. The Vari underestimated humanity, and she intended to use that to her advantage. "We'll take them by surprise," she said, her voice cold with resolve. "Set course to intercept at 47 degrees by 68. Prepare to execute evasive maneuvers on my mark." Kale raised an eyebrow. "You think we can outrun them in this wreck?" Ilara's lips tightened into a thin line. "We can't outrun them, but we can outthink them. Get the weapons systems online. We'll make them regret underestimating us." A flicker of a smile crossed Cal's face as he nodded. "Understood." The crew worked in synchronized harmony, moving quickly through their stations. The once imposing warship was a shadow of its former self, but Ilara had seen firsthand the resilience of the human spirit. The ship was her people's last chance, and she would make sure they wouldn't go down without a fight. As they approached the Vari warships, Ilara felt the weight of every decision pressing down on her. One wrong move, and they could be wiped out in seconds. Yet the thought of humanity's extinction pushed her onward. She wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. She was fighting for something greater, the hope that humanity could rise again, no matter the odds. "Now," she commanded, her voice a razor's edge. The ship swerved, barely dodging a barrage of incoming fire as they rocketed toward the Vari fleet. The crew scrambled to keep up with her orders, a finely tuned machine under the captain's ruthless leadership. "Fire the main cannons," Ilara shouted, her heart pounding as the ship's weapons unleashed a salvo of firepower, targeting one of the Vari warship's weak points. The explosions rocked the ship, sending waves of shock through its battered hull. The Vari retaliated almost immediately, their weapons striking the warship with unrelenting precision. The crew staggered under the impact, but the ship held steady. Ilara gritted her teeth, watching as the Vari warship's shields flickered and then collapsed. "Direct hit," Kale said, his voice rising with a mix of disbelief and excitement. "They're losing power. The Vari air." Before he could finish, a sudden wave of energy coursed through the ship, knocking everyone to the ground. Sparks flew from the consoles, and the lights flickered. The Vari were adapting, shifting their tactics, and they weren't about to let humanity escape this easily. "We've been hit. Systems are failing," shouted the chief engineer, her voice tinged with panic. "I don't know how much longer we can hold on." "Keep fighting," Ilara shouted back, her eyes blazing with fierce determination. "We're not done yet." With a roar of defiance, the human warship pressed on, charging directly at the Vari warship, now crippled and struggling to regain its footing. Ilara's hands tightened on the controls as she aimed their remaining firepower at its vulnerable core. The ship groaned in protest, but it pushed through, defying the odds. A massive explosion ripped through the Vari vessel, its hull crumpling in a burst of fiery debris. The remaining Vari warship hesitated, reeling from the unexpected destruction. Ilara saw her chance. "Now, take out their engines. Full power to the forward cannons," she commanded. With a final blast, the Vari ship went dark, its engines powerless to resist the oncoming storm. Ilara's crew erupted in cheers, but the battle was far from over. The convoy, though saved, was still under threat from the Vari reinforcements. They had won a small victory, but the war was far from over. Ilara turned to her crew, her eyes gleaming with a fierce light. "This is just the beginning. We've shown them that humanity isn't dead. We will rise. No one gets left behind. Not while I'm still standing." As the ship limped toward the convoy, their battered hull an emblem of survival against impossible odds, Ilara knew the hardest part was still ahead. But for the first time in months, she felt a spark of hope. Humanity was not finished. With the convoy safely escorted to a hidden, remote colony, the victory felt hollow. The crew of the warship had salvaged what remained of their pride, but the reality was grim. The Vari were not a foe to be taken lightly. The Black Sun, their ultimate weapon, was nearing completion, and its destructive potential could wipe out entire systems, including any hope humanity had left. Ilara knew the stakes had risen exponentially. The Black Sun could not be allowed to exist. It was a weapon of unimaginable power, capable of rewriting the course of the galaxy itself. As the convoy settled into the safety of the colony, Ilara gathered her senior officers in the briefing room. The mood was tense. The victory of the previous day seemed like an illusion in the face of the new threat. "We have a chance," Ilara began, her voice unwavering, though her mind raced with the weight of the task ahead. "The Vari are constructing the Black Sun on a remote world, deep in Vari-controlled space. We need to destroy it before it becomes operational." Her officers exchanged uncertain glances. Lieutenant Kale, ever the pragmatist, spoke first, his tone sharp with skepticism. "We can't just waltz into Vari territory and expect to destroy it," he said. "We barely got away from their main fleet. There's no way we can reach that station without a full-scale assault, and we don't have the resources for that." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "We don't need a full-scale assault. We need to outsmart them. The Vari are too confident in their own strength. They don't believe we can get close enough to strike, but they've underestimated us before. We can use their arrogance against them." The room fell silent as her plan took shape in their minds. They would infiltrate the Vari stronghold, gather intelligence, and strike where the Vari least expected it. But it wasn't going to be easy. The Vari had established a fortress around the Black Sun project, a maze of defenses and automated sentries that would challenge even the most skilled infiltrators. "We'll need to make use of everything we've got," Kale said, his voice softer now, but still full of uncertainty. "Every ship, every resource we have left, and we'll need a distraction, a way to draw their attention away from our main assault." Ilara nodded, her mind already working through the possibilities. "I'll leave that to you, but we can't afford to fail." The crew's morale was already shaken from the constant fighting, but they were resolute. Humanity had nothing left to lose but their future, and Ilara would give them every ounce of her strength to ensure they had one. Hours later, as the warship prepared for its next mission, Ilara took a solitary moment to reflect on the path they had chosen. A holo recording flickered to life in front of her. It was an ancient relic from the early days of the Empire, a message from her ancestors, their faces filled with the same fierce determination that now burned in her chest. "We build empires to last." The recording began, a voice thick with the pride of a long-lost civilization. "But true power lies not in the stars we conquer, but in the hearts of those who refuse to bow." The words resonated deep within her. Humanity's empire had fallen, but its heart, their will to survive, was unbroken. She could feel the weight of the generations that had come before her, their sacrifices, their ambitions, and the legacy they had left behind. This was her fight now, and it was one she would not lose. The warship's engines hummed as it powered up for the next phase of their mission. But before they departed, a small, unexpected transmission pinged across their communications. Ilara's eyes narrowed as the message appeared on the screen, a cryptic code, not of Vari origin, but human. "It's from the old colonies," Kale muttered, eyes wide. "I thought we were the last ones left." Ilara's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Had humanity's scattered remnants survived longer than they thought? The message was vague, but it contained coordinates to a planet far beyond Vari-controlled space, hidden in a forgotten part of the galaxy. "This changes everything," Ilara said, her voice tense with excitement. The message wasn't just a cry for help. It was a beacon, a lifeline. There were more of them out there, more humans who had survived the initial waves of the Vari invasion. "We're not alone," Ilara whispered, more to herself than anyone else in the room. "There's hope yet." As the warship surged forward, cutting through the darkness of space, Ilara knew that their mission was no longer just about stopping the Black Sun. It was about reconnecting the scattered threads of humanity, rallying together to take back what was once theirs. The flames of rebellion were beginning to stir across the stars. The warship hummed with quiet urgency as Ilara stared at the coordinates. The signal from the old colonies was faint, a single thread in the vast expanse of space. But it was something, more than she could have hoped for in the wake of the Empire's collapse. The planet the transmission pointed to was far beyond the reach of the Vari fleet, in the outer rim of the galaxy, a place once considered insignificant. Humanity's hope, it seemed, lay in forgotten corners. But even as she felt the spark of optimism flicker to life, Ilara couldn't shake the weight of doubt. What if the message was a trap? What if these survivors were just more ghosts, scattered remnants of a species that had already lost the war? "We'll find out soon enough," she muttered under her breath, turning away from the console. She couldn't afford hesitation. Not now. There were lives on the line, and a chance to turn the tide of the war. "We'll be at the coordinates in 2 hours," Cale said, his voice breaking through her thoughts. He stood at the command station, his eyes fixed on the vastness of space outside the viewport. "It's a gamble, Ilara. We don't know who, or what, we're walking into." "I know," Ilara replied, her voice unwavering. "But we can't afford to play it safe. If humanity is to survive, we need every ally we can get. And if these survivors are anything like us, they'll know how to fight." The crew had heard the rumors. Whispers of human resistance forces scattered across the galaxy, some having banded together in secret, others left to fend for themselves. For Ilara, this was the only thread left to cling to in a universe where her people had been abandoned and broken. As the warship cut through the cold blackness, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Every member of the crew knew the stakes. This was their last hope. Failure was no longer an option. 2 hours later, they arrived at the outer rim of the system. The planet they sought was a small, unassuming world, its surface covered in dense forests and vast oceans. It was hardly the kind of place one would expect to find a resistance movement. Yet there it was, waiting in the dark, like a dying ember waiting to be reignited. The ship's sensors hummed with a quiet whir, no signs of Vari presence. Cal reported, his voice tinged with cautious relief. "They haven't found this place yet." Ilara's eyes narrowed as she focused on the screen. The surface of the planet was riddled with strange structures, remnants of ancient human colonies from before the rise of the Empire. Yet, amidst the ruins, there were faint signals, faint signs of life. Something was hidden beneath the surface. But where? "We're not alone down there," Ilara said softly, her thoughts turning to the survivors. What kind of people had lived here, isolated from the rest of humanity for so long? As the warship descended through the atmosphere, a sudden jolt shook the ship. Alarms blared. The ship's systems went into overdrive, as if trying to compensate for the impact of unseen forces. Ilara's hands tightened on the controls. "Something's wrong," the chief engineer shouted from the back of the bridge. "It's like we're being pulled off course." A violent tremor shook the ship again, sending a wave of shock through the crew. The faint signals they had picked up on the surface suddenly spiked, a rush of electrical activity that made the hair on Ilara's neck stand on end. "Is it a trap?" Cale growled, his hand reaching for his sidearm. "Are the Vari here?" Ilara's eyes flicked to the ship's readouts. No, it wasn't the Vari. But something was interfering with their systems, something powerful, something they hadn't anticipated. The warship broke through the clouds, and what they saw beneath them was a landscape unlike any they had encountered. The planet's surface was dotted with massive, intricate structures. An underground city sprawled beneath the ground. The resistance didn't just survive here. They had thrived. And at the center of it all was something that sent a chill down Ilara's spine, a monument to the Empire's lost glory. An ancient relic, half buried beneath the earth, long forgotten by the galaxy. But as the ship drew closer, she realized that it wasn't just a monument, it was a weapon. "I don't like this," Cale muttered, his gaze fixed on the structures below. "Whatever's down there, it's not just a resistance movement." Ilara's heart skipped a beat as she finally understood. The survivors on this planet hadn't just been hiding. They had been waiting for something. And that something was not a rallying cry for humanity's survival. It was a remnant of the Empire's old power, a weapon that could tip the balance in their favor or destroy them all. "I have a bad feeling about this," she said, her voice low. "Captain," the communications officer said, her voice quivering with an undercurrent of fear. "We're being hailed. It's a message, but it's not from any resistance we know. It's from someone else." Ilara's eyes locked on the transmission, the final twist in their journey. She knew that whatever was waiting for them on the surface, it would change everything. The transmission crackled to life, its distortion almost overwhelming. The voice that emerged was deep, resonant, and unmistakably human. But there was something off about it, a coldness in the tone, a detachment that Ilara hadn't expected. "This is Captain Ivor Callan of the Phoenix Vanguard," the voice declared, sending a chill through the bridge. "If you are receiving this message, you found us. We've been waiting. You are not the first to arrive, and you will not be the last." Ilara's heart pounded. The Phoenix Vanguard. She'd heard rumors, whispers of a secret fleet formed from the remnants of the Imperial Navy, an elite force that had vanished after the Vari's first assault. They were legends to the survivors, said to have retreated to some hidden place, to regroup and strike back. But to hear the name spoken, to know they still existed, was a shock. "Captain Callan," Ilara began, her voice steady, though she felt the weight of history pressing down on her. "This is Ilara Creed, captain of the last Imperial warship. We've been fighting to survive, to find others like us. We received your transmission. We need your help." The response was immediate, but the coldness in Captain Callan's voice had only deepened. "You are far from ready, Captain Creed. The Vari are already moving to annihilate all human life, and you come to us as a beggar, seeking salvation. Do you think the Phoenix Vanguard will simply take pity on you?" Ilara's pulse quickened, a fire igniting within her. "We're not begging," she replied sharply. "We are asking for an alliance. We have the power to fight back, but we can't do it alone. If you are truly the Vanguard, then prove it. Help us take down the Vari's Black Sun. Help us reclaim our future." There was a long pause on the other end, the silence thick with unspoken words. Finally, Captain Callan spoke again, his voice no less cold but carrying a hint of something else, perhaps curiosity, or even recognition. "The Black Sun. You've been listening to the wrong people, Captain Creed. That weapon is not what you think it is. It is not just a tool of destruction, it is a catalyst. The Black Sun will not just wipe out your enemies. It will tear open the fabric of space itself. And you have no idea what that will unleash." Ilara's mind raced, trying to make sense of the warning. "What do you mean?" "The Black Sun is a weapon, nothing more. We have to destroy it before it's too late. The Black Sun is a remnant of a power far older than the Vari, far older than your empire." Callan's voice continued, each word carrying a weight that seemed to echo through the very air. "The empire of humanity once controlled it, once understood it, but it was locked away for a reason. If you destroy it, you risk unleashing something that will destroy everything. Vari, humans, and even the universe itself." Ilara's grip tightened on the armrests of her chair. "What are you saying? You want us to leave it in the hands of the Vari? You want us to let them complete it?" "No," Callan replied sharply. "But you are not prepared for what the Black Sun truly is. We are building a new force here, one capable of stopping the Vari, but also capable of controlling the Black Sun. You have much to learn, Captain Creed, if you are to survive the war ahead." Ilara felt her world tilt. This was not what she had expected. The survivors, the Phoenix Vanguard, weren't simply looking to defeat the Vari. They were planning something far grander, something that could change the very nature of the war, and perhaps the galaxy itself. "Where are you?" Ilara asked, her voice low but determined. "We need to meet. We need to discuss this face to face. You're already here, Kellen replied cryptically. The Phoenix Vanguard has been waiting for the last of the Empire's bloodlines to arrive. You are the key, Captain Creed. And now that you've come, there is no going back. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Ilara's mind raced, piecing together the implications of what she had just learned. The Phoenix Vanguard had been waiting for her. She was not just the leader of a fractured resistance. She was part of something much larger, a plan that went beyond mere survival. The fate of the Black Sun, and perhaps the galaxy, rested on the choices she would make in the days to come. Captain. Cal's voice broke through her thoughts. What now? Ilara turned to face her crew, her heart heavy with the weight of the unknown. We go down to the surface. We meet these people. We don't have time to waste. The Vari are getting closer, and the Black Sun is more dangerous than we ever imagined. We need to know everything before it's too late. With a nod, she turned toward the warship's hangar. The descent to the hidden world had begun, and with it, a new chapter in humanity's fight for survival. But Ilara knew this was only the beginning. The Phoenix Vanguard, the Black Sun, and the forgotten power of humanity's past would shape their future, and she wasn't sure they were ready for the secrets waiting to be uncovered. As the warship descended through the thick cloud cover, Ilara's thoughts swirled with uncertainty. The air was thick with tension. No one on board knew what to expect. The Phoenix Vanguard had been waiting for her, but what did that mean? What were they truly planning, and what role did she play in their plans? The warship's landing gear scraped against the alien terrain as they touched down in a vast clearing, the towering remnants of an ancient human city looming in the distance. The surface was eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of their engines winding down. The crew gathered their equipment, exchanging anxious glances as the doors opened. Outside, the planet's atmosphere smelled like something both old and untamed. Forests stretched as far as the eye could see, but the strange geometric shapes of long-forgotten human structures poked out from beneath the overgrowth. It was a place that felt suspended in time, as though it had been abandoned by the rest of the galaxy and left to wither away. Yet there was an undeniable energy here, an untapped potential that pulsed beneath the surface. The crew disembarked, forming tight ranks behind Ilara, as they made their way toward a massive structure half buried in the earth. It was an old imperial outpost, its once great walls now cracked and covered in moss, but still standing as a monument to a bygone era. It was here, Ilara realized, that the Phoenix Vanguard had chosen to make their stand. The Vanguard wasn't just a fleet. It was a collective of survivors, rebels, and old imperial loyalists who had never given up on the dream of humanity's resurgence. As they approached, a figure emerged from the shadows of the outpost, a tall, lean man in military uniform, his face obscured by a battle-scarred helmet. He was flanked by a small group of soldiers, all wearing the same dark attire, their eyes cold but full of purpose. Captain Creed. The figure spoke, his voice clipped and authoritative, but not without a hint of respect. I am Captain Ivor Callan of the Phoenix Vanguard. Welcome to the last hope of humanity. Ilara studied him closely, her mind racing. This man was the one who had sent the transmission, the one who held the key to understanding the true purpose of the Black Sun. But his words only raised more questions. The last hope of humanity. What did that mean for the rest of them? I've come to speak with you, Ilara replied, keeping her tone firm. We need to discuss the Black Sun. We need to understand what it is, why it's so dangerous, and how we can stop it. Captain Callan's eyes narrowed, the faintest flicker of recognition crossing his face. He stepped forward, extending a hand toward her, his gaze intense. You've come at a time when there is no more room for hesitation. The Black Sun is more than a weapon. It is a symbol of our own arrogance, a reflection of the very power that led to the fall of the Empire. And now it threatens to destroy everything we'd fought for. He gestured for Ilara to follow him, leading her through the outpost's darkened halls. The walls were covered in old imperial maps and star charts, some faded with age but still legible. It was clear that the Phoenix Vanguard had been preparing for something monumental. They had been studying the Black Sun, researching its origins and its implications, for a long time. "You're right," Ilara said, her voice steady. "It's more than just a weapon. The Vari are only the beginning of what the Black Sun could bring." They'd reached a central chamber deep within the outpost, a room that had been converted into a command center. It was filled with holographic displays, star maps, and intel on Vari movements. But what caught Ilara's attention most was the large pulsing device at the center of the room, a strange artifact that hummed with an otherworldly energy. It looked like a relic of ancient technology, something the Empire had buried long ago. "This is the source of the Black Sun," Kalen said, his voice grim. "It's not just a weapon, it's a bridge, a portal. It connects us to something beyond our understanding, and it's not just Vari forces that will come through. There are powers in the galaxy, ancient forces, that even the Vari fear. If the Black Sun is activated, it will open the floodgates to unimaginable destruction." Ilara's stomach twisted. She had known the weapon was dangerous, but the sheer scale of its potential left her feeling cold. This wasn't just about humanity's survival anymore. It was about the survival of the entire galaxy. "And you believe we can control it?" Ilara asked, her voice skeptical. "If this thing is what you say it is, we'll need more than just a few ships to stop it." Kalen's eyes darkened. "The Vanguard has been preparing for this moment for a long time. We've spent years researching the technology, the ancient texts, the secrets hidden in the Empire's vaults. But there's something else, something we haven't fully understood. And that's why we need you, Captain Creed." Ilara froze. "Me? You are the key," Kalen said, his voice low but urgent. "You are the last of the Empire's bloodlines, the one who can unlock the true potential of the Black Sun. If you choose to embrace the power it offers, we can harness it to defeat the Vari and any other enemy that stands in our way." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Ilara's heart beat faster as she realized the gravity of the decision before her. The power of the Black Sun and the future of humanity lay in her hands. Ilara stood motionless, the weight of Kalen's words pressing down on her like an unbearable force. The Black Sun, the artifact that had once been hidden by the Empire, now poised to either save or doom the galaxy. Her mind raced with the enormity of what was at stake. The Black Sun was not just a weapon, it was the ultimate tool, an ancient power that could reshape everything. The future of humanity, the survival of her people, depended on how they wielded it. "I don't understand," Ilara said, her voice quieter than she intended. "You're asking me to use this power, a power that we don't even fully comprehend, to control the fate of the galaxy. What happens if we can't control it?" Kalen's gaze never wavered, his expression cold but resolute. The Black Sun was never meant to be controlled by anyone. It was a power forged by beings older than the Vari, older than the Empire itself. Its true purpose is unknown, but it is capable of destroying worlds, tearing apart the fabric of space, and yet, it is the only weapon that can match the Vari's Black Fleet. Ilara's eyes darted to the strange artifact at the center of the room, its surface glimmering with a faint alien energy. It pulsed, almost like a heartbeat, as if alive. The room felt colder as its power seemed to seep into the walls, filling the space with an oppressive hum. "Then why do you think we can control it?" Ilara asked, her voice steadier now, though her mind still teetered on the edge of disbelief. "Because you are the last heir to the Empire's bloodline," Kalen answered simply. "You are the one who can unlock its true potential. The Black Sun was designed for a leader like you, someone with the will to bend it to humanity's needs. You may not know it yet, but it is your destiny." Ilara shook her head, trying to make sense of it. She had never thought of herself as a leader of such magnitude. A captain, yes. A soldier, yes. But a key to the galaxy's survival. The responsibility felt unbearable. "And if I refuse?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kalen's eyes darkened. "If you refuse, the Vari will continue their march. The Black Fleet will overwhelm everything in its path, and the galaxy will burn. We will be reduced to dust, like the Empire before us, and the Black Sun will be taken by those who have no understanding of its power. It will be used against us." Ilara's chest tightened at the thought. The Vari, with their overwhelming forces, had already decimated most of humanity. If they gained control of the Black Sun— "You're asking me to take an enormous risk," she said, her voice steady now, though her heart raced. "What if we fail? What if this thing is too much for us to handle?" Kalen's eyes softened for the briefest moment. "I can't promise that we will succeed, Captain. But I can promise that we'll stand a better chance with you. The Phoenix Vanguard has been waiting for a leader with the strength to carry this burden. If you are willing to step into that role, we can stand against the Vari. And not just survive. We can take back everything they've stolen." Ilara's breath caught in her throat. Was she truly ready to shoulder this burden? Was she the one who could unlock the Black Sun's potential? The weight of the decision pressed down on her, but as she looked around at the faces of her crew, her people, the last of humanity, she knew there was no turning back. She was their captain, and if she had any hope of leading them to victory, she had to embrace this path. "I'll do it," Ilara said, her voice firm and resolute. "I'll unlock the power of the Black Sun." A small but audible sigh of relief echoed through the room. Kalen nodded, his face betraying little emotion, but his eyes gleamed with something akin to respect. "Then let us prepare," he said. "We move at dawn. The Vari won't wait for us to make our move." Ilara turned to face the artifact once more. Its glow seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat, as though it recognized her decision. She didn't know what awaited her, whether she was about to unlock humanity's greatest weapon, or set loose a force that could consume everything. But one thing was clear: there was no turning back now. As she looked back at Kalen, she felt a sense of purpose stir deep within her. This was the moment that would define her legacy, the moment where humanity's last hope could either rise from the ashes or be consumed by them. And no matter what happened, she would face it with the resolve of a captain, with the will to fight until the very end. The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the ancient ruins as Ilara stood at the helm of her warship. The Phoenix Vanguard had assembled, a unified force standing at the precipice of an unknown future. The air was thick with anticipation, every soldier and officer aboard ready to face the unimaginable. Their mission was clear, yet fraught with peril. The Black Sun would either be humanity's salvation or its ultimate doom. Ilara took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the fleet around her. The warships of the Vanguard were smaller than the Empire's grand vessels, but they were more agile, more deadly. Each one was a testament to the resilience of humanity, a force that refused to be crushed, even after all these years. Kalem's voice came over the comms, calm and unwavering. "Captain Creed, the time has come. We move on the Vari stronghold now. The Black Fleet is mobilizing, but we have one chance to strike before they realize what we're truly after." Ilara nodded, her heart steady. "Understood. Prepare the fleet. We're taking the fight to them." As the ships began their calculated maneuver, Ilara's mind raced. The path she had chosen was fraught with unknowns. The Black Sun's true power had yet to be fully understood, and there was no telling what kind of consequences it might unleash once activated. But there was no time to second-guess her decision. The Vari's advance was unstoppable. If humanity was to survive, they had to strike with everything they had. The warships plunged into hyperspace, the stars outside stretching into streaks of light as they jumped from one system to the next. It would take them several hours to reach the Vari stronghold, but every second felt like an eternity. Ilara stood in the command center, her fingers gripping the edge of the console as she gazed at the star map. The route was clear, but the Vari were known for their ambushes. They had already beaten humanity back once, and Ilara couldn't afford to let it happen again. "We've detected an incoming Vari fleet." Kalen's voice broke through her thoughts. "They're moving to intercept. We don't have much time." Ilara's jaw clenched. "Set a course to evade. We need to keep moving forward." The tension on the bridge grew as the crew scrambled to execute the evasive maneuvers. The fleet's smaller ships darted through space with precision, avoiding the Vari's deadly interceptors. Ilara knew they couldn't outrun them forever. This battle would be fought on their terms, not the Vari's. "We're entering the Vari's outer defense perimeter," Kalen warned. "Prepare for contact." The lights dimmed as the ship entered the Vari-controlled space. Suddenly, the vast emptiness of the void was filled with the sharp signals of the Vari's warships, hundreds of them, moving in a perfectly coordinated formation. Their ships were monstrous, black and jagged, their engines exuding an aura of malevolence. "The Black Fleet." Ilara's voice cut through the tension. "We attack first. Break their formation." Without hesitation, the Vanguard fleet surged forward, firing on all cylinders. Laser blasts and torpedoes streaked through the dark expanse, lighting up the void with brilliant explosions. The Vari retaliated immediately, their massive warships unleashing hellfire upon the human fleet. The battle erupted in a maelstrom of chaos, ships disintegrating in fiery plumes, debris scattering across the battlefield. But through the storm, Ilara could see their target, the Vari flagship, the heart of their Black Fleet. It was a massive vessel, its surface glimmering with a dark, unnatural energy. The Black Sun's power was what the Vari sought to protect, and it was from here that they would launch their final assault. "Lock on to the flagship's core," Ilara ordered. "We can't afford to miss this chance." The warship's weapons systems hummed as they powered up. A moment of silence hung in the air. Then a pulse of energy shot forward, striking the flagship's core with pinpoint precision. The ship shuddered as its outer armor cracked, exposing the heart of the vessel. It was then that Ilara saw it, a shimmering core of darkness that pulsed with an unearthly glow. The Black Sun. The Vari flagship convulsed, as though it were alive. In the chaos of the battle, Ilara's mind snapped back to Kalen's warnings. The Black Sun was a catalyst. If they destroyed the Vari's flagship, if they took it down, it could activate the very force they had been so carefully trying to control. There was no telling what would happen. "Captain, the Black Sun's energy is spiking." Kalen's voice rang out through the comms. "It's destabilizing." Ilara's heart skipped a beat. "We have to disable it. Now." With a final desperate push, the human fleet concentrated all its firepower on the core of the Vari flagship. A deafening explosion tore through the void, and for a moment, everything went silent. The aftermath was beyond anything Ilara could comprehend. The Vari flagship had been reduced to space debris, but the Black Sun had done something else. It had destabilized the fabric of reality itself. Ripples of energy radiated out from the explosion, warping space and time. In that moment, Ilara understood. The Black Sun wasn't just a weapon. It was a force of nature, a weapon capable of reshaping the very fabric of the universe. As the crew gathered themselves, Ilara's gaze remained fixed on the distant horizon, where the faint outlines of the Vari fleet's remaining ships could still be seen. Their victory had come at a cost, but humanity had risen once more. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in years, Ilara saw a glimmer of hope. The Empire was gone, but humanity would not be forsaken. The Black Sun had changed everything, and it was now up to them to harness it. They had a future to fight for.